name is Skye Taylor. Today we're going to talk about a few more tips and tricks. Now, I told you in previous episodes about using chip brushes. Well, I found a good place to buy them, and hopefully there's a store near you. I bought these at Menards. 2-inch chip brushes. I got a whole package, 24 for like $10.99, which is an incredible deal. So you might want to visit your paint section at Menards. This is an incredible deal. Also, what we're going to talk about today is when you buy canvases, sometimes you'll get them in bulk, or if you buy them at your local hobby store, what happens is when you unwrap them, you're going to notice sometimes that there's bubbles in the canvas. And hopefully you'll notice it before you paint your masterpiece, because after you paint your masterpiece, it's terrible to see that you've got actual waves. But there's a way to fix that. Before you buy the canvas, you should examine it completely. If you go to like the Hobby Lobby stores or the Michaels stores, usually what they'll do is they'll have the canvases displayed on a rack. Now, the proper way to get a canvas is just don't buy it because of the size. You have to look to see if it's warped. Because a lot of times the bigger the size, the more it's going to warp. And this can create a problem, especially if you're charging big bucks for a piece of art and the person gets it and they put it on the wall and the thing is completely bent out of shape. I've had that happen already. So when you go to these stores, what you want to do is you want to take the canvas and you put it on the floor. You'd put this canvas down on the floor and you're going to look, put it all the way down on the floor. I can't do it here because you can't see. But you want to eyeball from one end all the way down. You look straight down. If it's got a bow in it, don't buy it. You do the same with the other side. You're going to put it down on the ground and your eye is going to go along the edge and you're going to look at it. And then you'll look in the middle too. You don't want any canvas that has a bow to it, put it back. What happens is when these canvases are on the shelf and they're in the upright position, sometimes other canvases will be on top of them and it'll put weight on them and then they'll bow. And it could be a real problem. If you buy canvases online, eventually what's going to happen is you're going to end up getting a canvas that it's loose. You're going to get a few loose ones, but there's a way to fix that, and I'm going to show you how to do that. Really easy. Hopefully it'll work for you. It has for me in the past. Another thing to remember is that when you are buying the larger canvas you buy, you have to have wood, the frame that will support it. Now, you don't want to buy anything past 24 by 36, now you're running into a danger zone because you don't want to buy a 3/4 inch thickness, anything past 24 by 36. Because chances are it's going to have problems with warping if the wood's not good. So usually as a rule, 24 by 36 is, I'll try to go to a 7/8 size. Now dickblick.com has 7/8 canvases. So if you get to 24 by 36, you're at a turning point. You can go 3/4 inch or you could go 7/8. It's kind of a crapshoot at that point, but anything bigger than that, you don't want to go 3/4 inch. The smaller canvases are usually okay. Okay, let's talk about this now. I got this canvas and it's really loose. I don't know if you can see it too well. I'm going to try to hold it up to reflect it in the light, but we've got a problem here. Now, how do we fix this? Now, I told you in previous episodes, I went to the dollar store and I bought a spray bottle. Cost me $1. Now, when you buy a spray bottle, you buy one with the opaque top, like this, a white top with a red. The opaque, they seem to be a little bit stronger. If you buy a clear one all the way through, they're usually not as good. I got this at my local dollar store. Dollar General ones are like really iffy. They just weren't that good. So Dollar General isn't the place to buy it as of this, unless they improve the quality. But anyways, here's what you do. You take it and you spray the back of it. Just like that. Get it good and wet. Now what we're going to do is take a hair dryer to it, which I'm going to do. Take a hair dryer and you blow dry it. Now you remember, this is cotton based. So what happens to cotton? It shrinks. So this is going to shrink. And if that doesn't completely solve the problem, usually by gessoing the front of it, you wet it down on the front too, and hair dry it, blow dry it I should say, and in the back, that usually will solve most of the shrinkage. It'll shrink and solve most of your bubble problems. But gesso on top of that will also tighten it up, because this is what we want to do. We want to tighten up the canvas. So what we're going to do is we're going to blow dry this, and we'll take a look at it. I'll show you what it looks like afterwards. Let me get a little close up and see here if you can see maybe the bubbles in that. And then we'll show you afterwards what it looks like. Okay, now what I did was, at the very top of this, I had some wrinkles. What I did was I sprayed some water underneath the wood and then blow dried it underneath. And it pulled it all together. This is pretty tight now. Not a problem, and I didn't even do the front of it yet. I'm almost good to go. Now, if I put my gesso on there, this is going to be a perfect canvas. I got out a lot of the wrinkles. I don't know if you could see this or not, but it had a terrible problem. But not anymore. It's like a drum. Okay, what we're going to do is I want to show you another little trick. Now, when you're cleaning brushes, sometimes it can be a problem. Now, in a previous episode, I told you about getting the pail. You get a pail at the dollar store. Dollar General, it was $1.50 in the car wash section. Now, cleaning brushes, if you go into an art supply store, they usually have these little baskets that you can put in a bucket of water and clean your brushes on. I'll tell you something. I priced them out and I was shocked. They were like $8. So now my mind's thinking, how can I do the same thing but cheaper? So I went to my local dollar store and I found a little basket. Now this basket would be used for pens. It's aluminum. It'll work just as well. You just stick it in your bucket. It's like a basket like this. Now they have different sizes. Check them out. But they're made out of aluminum. You stick it in. When you have your brushes, you can wipe them off on it. This helps get the water off. It's a little technique. It's inexpensive, and it works just as well. When you're painting with the chip brushes, now what happens, especially when you're painting abstracts, when you dip the brush in the paint, especially a dry brush, what happens is it will absorb all the color and all the pigment will go right into the brush. Now, when you're putting that on the canvas, that can create a problem, because what happens is that all the great pigments, the colors that pop, are stuck in your brush, and they're not getting all the way out to the canvas. So what you want to do is you want to get the full benefit of your paint. And there's one way to do that, and I found out. And I'm going to teach it to you. Okay, let's see. I've got a bucket here with water in. Now usually what I'll do is I'll rinse my brushes out with this bucket of water. But if I'm done at the night, I'll just leave them in. I don't care if the water is dirty, because what I'm going to do is wash them out the next day. But I always leave my brushes in water. They're not expensive. I always leave them in water. Now why is because what happens is that the bristles fill up with water and they become wet. Now if you use a wet brush, you wring it out. You can wring it out and wash it off, wipe it off on this. You dip it in the color. What happens is that the color stays on the brush. It doesn't get absorbed into the brush. So when you put that initial paint on the canvas, all the color goes on the canvas. Now what you want to do is you definitely want to gesso the canvas first. And if you want, you can mix, we've talked about this before, the gloss medium and varnish. in with the paint. You stir a little bit into the paint, the paint that you're doing, and put that on. And the colors just sit right on the canvas. They don't get sucked up in. That's why it's important to always gesso a canvas before you paint on it. Even if a canvas comes already primed, it's not good enough, because you don't know what kind of primer they used. And usually, as a rule, these canvases, no matter where you buy them, even though they're primed, suck up all the paint. If you put the paint directly on it, you're going to be losing pigment. So the whole purpose of this is trying not to lose the pigment. You want the color to go on and pop. So the trick to that is make sure that you gesso your canvas, let it thoroughly dry. Always keep your brushes in water, and you should be good to go. You wring them out. Now what I'll do before I paint, of course, is I'm going to throw this water up and get all fresh water, clean my brushes. But they sit in non-stop, 24/7. They always sit in water. This way they're ready to go at any time. Okay, now we've covered a few points here, and there's another interesting point I'd like to talk about. Now, as you can see, I created this masterpiece, or so I think it is anyways. Looks pretty good, huh? Most important thing on this painting? The signature. Skye Taylor. Now, how did I get this on? Sometimes artists will paint them on, but I prefer writing them on. Now, you could use a Sharpie marker, but I prefer not to. I want to stay true to the cause. And by doing that, I'll use a paint marker. Now, let me show you what I do. Okay, let me pop this baby down here. Okay. I went over to Walmart because they have probably the best price, and in the craft section they have an assortment of paint markers. They're made by Elmer's. They're about $3.47 a piece. Now, you should have in your arsenal at least a black one. They come in fine point and I think medium point. Medium is really the way to go. Unless you're working in really small pictures, then you'll want to go with a fine point one. If you want to save even more money, you could buy their pack of like 5 or 6 for $10. They have an assortment of colors, but I haven't done that. Usually what I do is I'll buy a black one, a white one, and a silver one. And I think that covers, and a red one. In case, that seems to about cover all my needs. But 99% of the time I'll end up using just the black marker. So I go through a lot of the black. But they're not that expensive, and they do a wonderful job. They put that last final touch to your masterpiece. Thank you very much for stopping by, and I hope you learned a few things today, and we're going to be doing some more. As I come up with more ideas, we'll do some more videos, and hopefully these will help you. Thank you very much for stopping by. My name's Skye Taylor, and keep on painting.